A 92-year-old man was found dead inside his own home. Not from a break-in, not from a fire, but from the cold. The temperature inside his house had dropped to minus 47 degrees because Nashville's entire power grid just collapsed. He's one of 153 people killed by a single winter storm that knocked out power to over 1 million homes across America. And the scary part, your city could be next. So from January 23rd to the 27th, this absolute beast of a storm tore across the entire country. We're talking 2,000 miles wide, stretching from the Mexican border all the way up to Canada, just swallowing everything in its path. They called it Winter Storm Fern, but honestly, that cute little name doesn't even come close to what this thing actually did. It buried the East Coast under 2 feet of snow and then coated the entire South in a thick, brutal sheet of ice. At its peak, 56% of the continental U.S. was covered in snow. That's over half the country just gone white overnight. New York, Philly, they got their worst snowfall in 5 years, and 10,000 flights got canceled in a single weekend. 24 governors declared emergencies, and 230 million Americans were under weather alerts. That's roughly 2 out of every 3 people in this country. But here's the thing, nobody saw coming. It wasn't the snow that killed people. It was the ice. Snow you can deal with. You grab a shovel. You plow the road. Life goes on. But freezing rain, that's a whole different monster. It wraps around power lines until they snap. It cracks tree branches like they're made of glass. And it turns every single road into a death trap. And while the whole South got wrecked, Nashville, Tennessee caught the absolute worst of it. January 25th hit the city with the worst ice storm it had seen in over 30 years. Nothing even close since 1994. 230,000 homes lost power, and not for a few hours or even overnight. Some families went 2 full weeks sitting in the dark. 700 utility poles snapped like twigs, and the backbone of Nashville's entire electrical grid basically fell apart. They normally run about 200 line workers in the city, so they scrambled to get 1-800 crews out there pulling 16-hour shifts in the freezing cold. And look, those linemen were absolute warriors. No question. Grinding nonstop in brutal conditions just to get people's lights back on. But the people running the show at the top, they completely dropped the ball on the one thing that mattered most. Communication. No timelines. No real updates. Nothing. Just families sitting in freezing houses with absolutely no clue when the nightmare would end. The mayor went on record calling the whole utility response wholly unacceptable and signed an executive order to investigate the entire leadership. He even hinted that board members could straight up get fired over this. That's how bad it got politically. And then leaked emails came out showing that union electrical workers who volunteered to help were reportedly turned away at the door. So people are literally sitting in freezing homes, and the utility company is telling qualified crews, nah, we're good. That's absolutely insane to me. Now I gotta be straight with you. This next part is genuinely hard to hear, but you need to know what really happened on the ground in Nashville. So, imagine walking into your own home and the thermostat reads 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Not outside, inside your house. That's what one Nashville resident came home to. And he said flat out, there was absolutely no surviving that without electricity. Families were bouncing from friends' couches to hotel lobbies to their cars. Anywhere they could scrape together a little bit of warmth. Some people were burning firewood inside their living rooms, and others were huddling under every blanket they owned, like it was the 1800s all over again. And that desperation, that's exactly what started killing people. Because when you're that desperate, you make choices you'd never normally make. A 39-year-old father named Almaquio Martinez Oliveira died from carbon monoxide poisoning because he ran a generator inside his home. That was the only option he thought he had to keep his family from freezing, and it cost him his life. His neighbor said it straight. People are just trying not to freeze to death. And that wasn't drama. That was literally what was happening. These are people who survived decades of life, wars, recessions, pandemics, and they were taken out by a power grid that couldn't handle some ice. And Nashville was just the epicenter. This storm left a trail of devastation across the whole country. In Texas, 3 young brothers fell through the ice on a frozen pond. All 3 gone. In Frisco, 2 teenage girls died in a sledding accident. Mississippi lost 23 people. Kentucky lost 15. New York City counted 14 deaths just from the cold snap that followed. 153 total lives lost, making this the deadliest winter storm America has seen since Uri destroyed Texas back in 2021. Memphis, Charlotte, all sitting ducks. One small plant shop in Nashville lost $100,000 worth of inventory in a single week because the power stayed out and everything just died. When they filed their insurance claim, they got flat out denied. So now, this small business owner is eating that entire 6-figure loss alone. Multiply that story by thousands of small businesses across Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana, and the total damage crosses $4 billion. Schools shut down for over a week. Parents couldn't go to work, and pipes are still bursting all over the city as the ground starts to thaw. Weather forecasters are saying we're shifting from La Nina toward El Nino conditions by late 2026, and that changes the game for everybody. So if you're in the South, Nashville, Atlanta, Memphis, Charlotte, Birmingham, the overall storm count might actually go down this year. But here's the catch. The storms that do hit are expected to be way more intense. Fewer punches, but each one hits like a freight train. That's basically what Fern was. One massive event that did more damage than an entire season of smaller storms would have done. And with 75% of power lines still above ground in these cities, one bad ice storm is all it takes to shut everything down again. If you're in the Northeast, New York, Boston, Philly, DTC, the transition between La Nina and El Nino makes weather patterns super unpredictable. We already saw a potential bomb cyclone tracked off the Massachusetts coast during Fern, and New York got its heaviest snow dump in 5 years. The Northeast usually handles cold weather better than the South, but when a system this big rolls through, nobody's infrastructure is truly safe. Gulf Coast cities, Houston, New Orleans, Mobile, Jacksonville. Y'all already know ice storms are your kryptonite, and this year proved it again. Louisiana alone lost 9 people, including a 74-year-old man who died of hypothermia after his power was out for days, and many areas went a full week without electricity. Houston especially needs to pay attention, because the Texas grid has been under scrutiny since Uri and experts are still not confident it can handle another major winter event. Midwest, Chicago, Minneapolis, Detroit, Kansas City. Your big enemy is wind chill. And Fern reminded everyone just how dangerous that can get. Eastern Iowa saw wind chills drop below -40 during this storm. That's frostbite on exposed skin in under 5 minutes kind of cold. And for Texas, after what happened with Uri in 2021 and now Fern in 2026, the message should be crystal clear by now. Texas is absolutely not immune to winter. Real quick, drop your city in the comments right now. I genuinely want to know where y'all are watching from and what you're dealing with. If there's a specific city you want me to break down next, the weather risks, the grid situation, the emergency prep, tell me, and I'll make it happen.